Buckle up, story lovers, because this one is going to stay with you. It's one of the most distressing stories I've ever covered, and while there are no graphic images here, the sequence at the end, it's deeply upsetting. So, viewer discretion is definitely advised. But before we dive into today's chilling tale, if you're like me, and you're fascinated by the strange and the mysterious, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do here. And we post new stories every Tuesdays and Thursdays, so if that's your jam, please give that like button a good ol' nudge. And even better, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Alright, let's get into today's story. Imagine it, 1986. Tom Hawks was a 39-year-old father, a man of strength and character with 2 teenage boys who were his world. He'd been through a divorce, but this day, this was different. He was at a local chili cook-off in Newport Beach, California, the sun warm on his face as he looked out at the crowd. And then, he saw her. A vision of beauty he'd never witnessed before. This stunning woman. He couldn't take his eyes off of her. He stared so long that she caught him, a smile and a blush flitting across her face before she looked away. Tom, totally embarrassed but completely smitten, knew he had to introduce himself. And so, with a newfound confidence, this handsome, muscular man with his glorious mustache walked over and introduced himself. Her name was Jackie. She was 29, single, and her smile? It lit up the world. From that moment on, these two were inseparable. They fell madly, deeply in love, and just a few short years later, in 1989, they were married in front of 150 of their closest friends and family. Can you just feel the happiness? After the wedding, Jackie moved in with Tom and his 2 boys. And it's important to understand, even though their biological mom was still alive, these boys began calling Jackie Mom. Because she didn't just live with them, she was devoted to them. She was loving and kind. It made perfect sense. You see, Jackie had always wanted to be a mother. When she was 22, she'd been in a horrific motorcycle accident, and the internal damage had left her unable to have children of her own. When the opportunity came to be a mother to these 2 boys, she completely embraced it, poured all her love into it. She was a fabulous mom. So, over the years, Tom and Jackie raised their 2 sons and watched them grow. Then, in 2002, the boys were grown, and they left the house. An empty nest. A sad moment for Tom and Jackie, who had invested so much of their identity in being parents. But they'd been preparing for this. 4 years, they'd diligently saved, putting aside every extra penny, all for this one purpose: to retire at the same time and buy a yacht. They dreamed of sailing up and down the California and Mexican coastline. Neither Tom nor Jackie were wealthy, but they were incredibly disciplined. They lived frugally and managed to save almost every penny. So, when their sons moved out, they sold their house in Newport Beach. Between that sale and their savings, they had enough to buy this kind of beat-up, old, small yacht. They named it the Well-Deserved. And despite not being a glamorous yacht, Tom and Jackie absolutely adored that boat. They moved all of their belongings onto the boat. They meticulously cleaned it, organized it, upgraded every space they could within their limited budget. And by the summer of that year, the Well-Deserved was beautiful, both inside and out. It was cozy, it was home, and it clearly had the loving touch of Tom and Jackie. For the next 2 years, Tom and Jackie lived the dream. They sailed up and down the coast of California and Mexico, watching breathtaking sunsets, catching fresh fish, and drinking cocktails together. It was pure bliss. They were really enjoying their retirement. Then, in 2004, they got some unexpected news. One of their sons was expecting a baby, their first grandchild. This was especially exciting for Jackie, who'd always longed to be a mother. The idea of getting to hold this precious little baby it just filled her with joy. So, despite absolutely loving life on the yacht, they decided to sell it and buy a house on land to be closer to their son and their new grandbaby. In November, the Hawks placed an ad in a fishing magazine to sell their yacht for about $500,000. And quickly, this young couple, who had some cash saved, offered to buy it. Tom and Jackie were thrilled. They called their sons to share the good news, telling them they'd be in touch soon. But a couple of days went by, and the sons hadn't heard anything. Tom and Jackie were always in contact with their family. This was very out of character. When Tom's brother, Jim, a retired police chief, heard about this sudden silence, he immediately drove to Newport Beach to check on them. Fearing something had happened, Jim, along with a friend, arrived at the dock and walked right up to the well-deserved. From where they stood, it didn't look like anyone was on board. As Jim looked closer, he noticed oddities: lines hanging over the side that should have been stowed, tarps off the control panels, dirty towels hanging out of a porthole. These were things Tom wouldn't have done. Jim thought they must have finalized the sale, and the new owners were just messy. Jim pulled out his business card, left a note, and began to leave the area. A detective went down to the dock and saw what looked like a bloody handprint inside the boat. They got a search warrant and swarmed the boat. It turned out to be just rust. Nothing significant was found. They were frustrated, no real leads. They called Skyler to the station. He was surprisingly cooperative. He said he'd met Tom through the ad, gone for a sea trial, and on November 15th, along with Jennifer, his pregnant wife, his daughter, a notary, and another witness, they met Tom and Jackie in the parking lot and he handed them a suitcase full of cash. They signed the paperwork and Tom and Jackie drove away. When the police asked where he got the money, he told them he'd made a bunch of money as a child star on Power Rangers. But then, he stopped himself and admitted the truth. The money was stolen from a drug kingpin. That's why he needed to launder the money. He was buying the yacht to turn dirty money into clean money by reselling it. The police were shocked by this confession. He had implicated himself in a money laundering scheme, but the police said they wouldn't charge him with money laundering if he would be helpful in the investigation. And he was. The police interviewed his wife, Jennifer, the notary, and the other witness. They all confirmed the same story. Tom and Jackie took the cash, signed the paperwork, hopped in their SUV, and drove off. The only thing that differed was the way Tom and Jackie were acting. Skyler said Tom seemed anxious and paranoid, but the notary said they acted totally normal. The police felt like they had hit a dead end. They went to the media, put out a bulletin with a picture of Tom and Jackie and their vehicle. And then, days later, an older couple in Mexico called the police to say that the Hawks SUV was parked right across the street from their house. Mexican and American authorities rushed to the location. But the person at the house didn't know Tom and Jackie. He said the car belonged to his friend, Skyler de Leon. This is when the police realized that Skyler was lying. He hadn't just seen them drive off. He had their car. Police brought Skyler in for money laundering. Then, they searched his home. They found Tom and Jackie's things: laptops, video cameras. Items they wouldn't have left behind on the boat. But Skyler maintained his innocence. He claimed it was a big misunderstanding. Jennifer supported this, even going on talk shows and talking about how it was just one big misunderstanding. The police knew they were lying, but still weren't getting anywhere. They called in the notary and the other witness, the ones from the sale of the boat. The notary, Kathleen Harris, finally broke down under questioning. She admitted she'd never met Tom and Jackie. She'd been paid by Skyler to backdate the sales documents. They had already been signed. She had no idea what happened to them next. The police then went and got the other witness, Alonzo Mason. At first, he stuck to the same story, but quickly folded when they revealed that they already knew the notary was lying. That's when Alonzo began to clam up, but the police desperately needed to break this case. They promised to reduce his sentence if he told them everything. And that's when the truth came out. Alonzo was a young guy, a former jailer who'd met Skyler when Skyler was incarcerated. He said Skyler told him that he was an international assassin that people paid to kill bad people, and he said he had a contract for two really bad people, Tom and Jackie Hawks. Skyler said if Alonzo would help, he would give him $1 million. On November 15th, Skyler, Alonzo, and a third man named John Kennedy, a gang member, showed up at the dock, not to do a sea trial but to carry out this dark plan. Tom who had been a probation officer, recognized the three men's intentions and tried to reschedule, but that's when Jennifer showed up with her baby. Jackie fell in love with the baby. Jennifer was so sweet and kind, and Tom loosened up. He told Skyler, "Today was fine, let's do the sea trial." So, Tom and Jackie got on the boat with these three men. When they were far out at sea, Skyler and John told Tom they wanted to show him something down in the lower level of the ship. They went down to the bedroom. Then, Alonzo, who was with Jackie in the kitchen, heard the commotion. He leapt forward and grabbed Jackie, handcuffed her. Then Skyler and John came up the stairs and pulled Jackie down to the bedroom. Jackie saw Tom and was terrified. She asked Skyler, "Why are you doing this? We just met your wife and baby. All we want to do is go home and be with our family." But Skyler was a monster. He didn't care. He ordered them to be bound, taped, and then began piloting the yacht toward the deepest part of the ocean. Alonzo watched as Tom comforted Jackie, gently stroking her hand, telling her it would be okay. When they arrived at the deep part of the ocean, Skyler ordered them brought up on the deck. He forced them to sign documents to give Skyler the boat and access to their bank accounts. Jackie even misspelled her last name on purpose, knowing it was her only cry for help. After the documents were signed, the men marched their captives to the back of the boat. They were standing at the edge of the boat when Skyler ordered Alonzo to bring the anchor to the back of the boat, and when Jackie and Tom saw where this was going and knew this was the end, Jackie began pleading for their lives, and then Tom kicked Skyler in the groin. And as a result of that attack, the three men forced Tom and Jackie to sit back to back with their hands handcuffed together. Then Skyler connected one end of the heavy anchor chain to their handcuffs. After securely fastening their handcuffs to the chain, Skyler lifted the heavy anchor and threw it into the ocean. The chain yanked Tom and Jackie against the side of the boat. Alonzo said that when this happened, Jackie's head struck the inside of the boat, with a loud audible cracking sound. Then the three men watched as Tom and Jackie desperately tried to hold onto the boat, while the weight of the anchor pulled them up and over the railing, off the boat, and down into the depths of the ocean. They were alive, they were conscious, as they plunged down, 3,500 feet to the bottom. Alonzo said as soon as they disappeared, Skyler just started laughing and grinning. It's almost impossible to wrap your mind around something this monstrous. Jennifer was just as involved. She had orchestrated their meeting with her baby at the dock to put Jackie and Tom at ease. She knew what would happen. And Skyler, as he was carrying out these murders, was calling Jennifer to let her know what was going on and for advice. This case gets even more sickening. When police found the Hawks video camera inside the de Leon's house, they found that they had used it to record their life. They recorded a Thanksgiving dinner just days after these horrific murders. They didn't care. Alonzo was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his part in this, and Jennifer, the orchestrator of it all, got life in prison without parole. John Kennedy and Skyler were sentenced to death. So, that's it, my friends. A truly disturbing story, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the human heart. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. And more importantly, please subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our video uploads. We post every Tuesdays and Thursdays. I really do appreciate your support. And, until next time, I'll see you in the comments section.